the Best Of series from the book of Revelation first, and we're in the 7 letters to the 7 churches, which is one of my favorite sections. It doesn't take a lot of interpretation as some of the symbolism of the latter chapters, but it is rich because we're looking at the practical church, the perennial church, and the prophetical church. And each of the churches could be a practical application for our church. It could be perennial, that is, it could be something that just keeps occurring in all churches, or it could be prophetical, that is, what's going to happen in the end times in the different churches. I tend to believe that it's really all three and was intended to be all three. In any case, we're finally on the last church, the 7th church, and we've looked at Ephesus, which is the faithful church, Smyrna, the fearful church, Pergamum, the faltering church, Thyatira, the false church, Sardis, the fruitless church, and Philadelphia, the feeble church, even though it has a door open before it. And now we're going to look at the fashionable church. We all know some fashionable churches, don't we? They usually have First Baptist in front of it. But there's a lot of fashionable churches. But he has something against even the fashionable church. He says, you're not hot. That is, you're not on fire for me. You're not knocking down walls and getting people saved. And you're not cold. You're not fruitless or false or faltering, but you're not cold. You're just lukewarm. Now, I don't know how you like your coffee. I always kid everybody about pecan pie because it's one of my favorites. And I say I only like pecan pie one of 2 ways, either hot or cold. And needless to say, that's not entirely true because I would like it lukewarm as well. But that's not true of my coffee. I like my coffee either hot or I like it iced coffee. But I don't like coffee that's been sitting in the cup for half an hour, 45 minutes, and has become lukewarm. And here's what he says, because you're neither hot or cold, and you're lukewarm, I want to spew you out of my mouth. In other words, you make me sick. You're fashionable. You think you're wealthy. You think that you have no need for anything. You think that you're wretched, but you're really wretched and poor. And you're blind and naked. You see, sometimes we can think just because we're in a stage of prosperity that that means that we're good and God's blessing the church. That's not always the case, is it? You can be a fashionable church and not be hot and not be cold and just make him sick. So what does he recommend? He says, recommend that you buy from me gold refined with fire. You know, sometimes when we go through trials and tribulations, we become refined, we become better. Buy white garments, take on my righteousness, my clothing. Get salve for your eyes so that you can see what's really important, the right priorities of the church. And then he reminds them, even though he's reproving them, he says, those that I love, I reprove. You love your children, and usually when you reprove them, it's because you do love them. You don't want them to be hurt. You don't want them to get into trouble. And that's exactly what God is saying here to this church. The church at Laodicea, fashionable, neither hot or cold. And they need to get close to God again. Take on his righteousness. Be willing to go through whatever trials they have to. Be able to see what's really important. Knowing that he's reproving them because he loves them. It's an interesting part of this particular church that we use very often in an evangelical way. I'm not sure that that's really the right use for it. It's more of a fellowship kind of a verse rather than a salvation verse. He says, I'm knocking at the door. Anyone that hears me and invites me in, opens the door and invites me in, I will come in and dine with him and he with me, or fellowship with him and he with me. You see, sometimes we're just outside the door. He's just outside the door, I should say. And all we've got to do is listen to his call. Remember, he says, those I love, I reprove. All we got to do is hear him and open the door and renew that fellowship that we have with him. And he promises them that if they'll do what he says, that they'll sit down with him in the kingdom on his throne, just as he did with the Father. What an incredibly wonderful promise. The fashionable church has an opportunity, the opportunity to get hot again, the opportunity to be righteous again, to be able to see again the things that are really important, and to listen for his voice and open the door and have fellowship with him. That's my thought for the day. God bless you and have a great day.